It's time for a book review. Mind your own business, what your MBA should have taught you about workplace health and safety. Dame Judith Hackitt and Andrew Sharman come together to create a godlike health and safety partnership, and it is the book for business leaders. What does that mean? I'm going to break that down in this video. Let's go. What's up guys, welcome back to Rebranding Safety. I haven't got glasses on. Welcome back to Rebranding Safety, the YouTube channel translating health and safety to help you save lives and save money. My name's James McPherson. Today we are doing another book review. We're talking all about Mind Your Own Business by Andrew Sharman and Dame Judith Hackitt, who you've probably heard of because she's all over the news at the moment. This is what your MBA should have taught you about workplace health and safety. Let's get into the book review. Okay, we're going to start off with a bit of an overview of the book. Firstly, who's the book for? Who's the book for is an interesting question. I think it kind of follows a twofold kind of question. Who's the book for and who's actually reading it? I don't have any research on the demographic of people who actually are reading it. However, this book has definitely been written for CEOs, leaders in the business, managers, on how to mind their own business. Definitely been written for them. I think who's going to read it, probably more safety professionals that follow Andrew Sharman and Dame Judith Hackitt, that are going to be aware of their production of the book. I've been on a couple of webinars when this came out and they introduced the book, and it was really interesting in what they were saying, and I'm definitely a massive advocate of what they're saying. So I think there's one dilemma there. Who's it for? Definitely for business leaders. It even says on like a couple of early pages, to the leaders who strive to get safety just right. Getting safety just right is pretty much the golden thread throughout the book. So that's interesting. So that's first bit. Okay, so the format of the book then, the format's quite simple. It pretty much tells us the current state of health and safety in the industry and business industry, what's wrong with that and how to fix it. It's kind of like the simplest way. We've got an introduction and we've got the chapters. So there's 5 main chapters, so not a lot. Exploring the modern myths of health and safety, which I found a really interesting chapter, and I'll break that down in a second. Chapter 2, but what if? Again, I'll break that down in a second. I'm just going to break them all down in a minute, so moving on. Chapter 3, mindset over matter, getting your culture just right. 4, facing the future, and 5, finding the force and leading the way. Then there's a conclusion, there's a little bit about both of the authors, and then there's some bits on further reading and training courses as well. So really, to be honest, this is your ultimate book as a business leader, because it takes you from scratch all the way through to sorted. So definitely want to pick up. So chapter 1, exploring the modern myths of safety. This it's difficult to pick which one was my favourite. I really enjoyed the book, but this was probably up there in one of the favourites. It did a big kind of calling out of several people, the media, people that stand by and just let these myths go through. I mean, they even talk about, what's the harm of laughing it off kind of thing, and they address that and say, well, actually, just laughing off these stories of conkers at schools, etc., does damage. So there's a big call out there to the media, also safety professionals or businesses or whoever that's doing these and making these decisions. It also explores the responsibility of safety and responsibilities within the business, and that was really interesting as well. I mean, it breaks down some really good case studies in there of myths and actual incidents throughout the book, so that was really interesting. Let's move on to chapter 2 then. But what if? This I found was a really interesting kind of exploration into why we are so risk averse in the UK. They're kind of delving into why we're so risk averse. Again, in this chapter there was a big call out to safety professionals and businesses to pull their socks up. There's a lot of examples of people going over the top, and I really don't say they pull their punches. They're quite blunt in the book about poor practices, and it comes up in pretty much every chapter. So it's very interesting, and I found it worked really well off kind of a let's just explore and talk about the modern myths, and then move into the explanation of why, or the exploration of why we are so risk averse, and then kind of that call out comes back. So they work really well. They bounced off each other quite nicely. On to chapter 3, mindset over matter, getting your culture just right. And if you don't know what just right is, it kind of something that come up with around like Sidney Decker. So it's an elaboration on the just culture, which would be like, a justice system in a way that should be fair and proper. And in this, they kind of take it a step further by calling it a just right culture. And the analogy that they use is Goldilocks, and this comes up throughout the whole book, and it's clear from the front cover that that's what it's on about. So we're talking about, not getting the porridge too hot or too cold, but getting it just right. And it's the same with your safety culture. There's not too much and there's not too little. It's getting it just right. And that's the key kind of golden thread throughout the whole book. There's an interesting bit in this chapter as well, probably one of my favourite sections of a chapter as well, where we talk about learned helplessness. I'll probably reference it on a couple of the podcasts as well, so if you've been listening, you probably know what I'm about to say. However, we talk about signage, the amount of signage and the amount of kind of paperwork and protection that we've got here in our everyday life, that create learned helplessness in a way that, we have to be told that a tap is hot, apparently, by all the signage, warning this is hot tap, it's not drinking water. We've created stupidity, and that's kind of my own interpretation of it, and I thought that was a really interesting chapter. We also talk about in the book about, when we get into a car, and it tells us to do everything. You can't drive off nowadays in the newer cars. You can't drive off without your seatbelt going on. You can't. It warns you if your seatbelts come loose. I remember pretty much the last 2 of my cars, both of them, when I have such a heavy bag, put it on there and it thinks it's a person and it starts beeping at me, so I have to put my bag on the floor. All these things, tell, some cars even correct you if you're swaying over to the line. You essentially don't even have to drive anymore. You put it into cruise control, and if you've got adaptive cruise control and lane assist, it just goes forward, stops when there's someone in the way, and then it stops you when you're going over into another lane. So we've created an industry, we've created a culture of stupidity, and it's a really interesting concept when you're looking at it from a point of view of health and safety. So that was a lovely chapter. So facing the future, for me, this was just a massive call to action. This is that kind of chapter which says, this is what you should be doing, this is where you should be going. Time to turn and face the future. And it was a good, hard-hitting chapter where it really did just call to action everybody, business owners, and how you can get that kind of culture just right, and some kind of guidance and some comparisons of good and bad, etc., and calling you to action to make the most of the money you spent on this book. And then we finish off in the last chapter, Finding the Force, talking about some real interesting concepts in here, the old school stuff like Gemba walks and going to Gemba and all that. We start breaking down those kind of Lean Six Sigma stuff, which those of you in manufacturing will know that inside out probably. And it talks about like 5 whys as well, and how to do 5 whys properly, mindfully integrating in the business as well, and kind of creating a workplace where people want to work. So it's kind of like you've turned around, you've learned how it shouldn't be done. Here's some examples. I know you've turned around, you've faced the future, and now this is finding the force to take you kind of forward into that. And I just thought it was a really nice chapter to finish off. And then obviously they finish off in the conclusion where they kind of round up all the points and they talk about it, and then they kind of close the loop. Okay, so to finish off then, I think it's pretty clear I really liked it. I enjoyed every chapter. I enjoyed how it was written. Within the book there's they break down quotes, and I'm a fan of a good quote. Here, I'll show you. You can see here they break down quotes a lot. So we've got one here from Howard Thurston, a magician. Long experience has taught me that the crux of my fortunes is whether I can radiate goodwill towards my audience. There is only one way to do it, and that's to feel it. You can fool the eyes and the minds of the audience, but you cannot fool their hearts. So I really like these kind of quotes that were through the book, and they are literally quite all the way through the book. And you're getting ones from, Steve Jobs, for example. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. You know, these are not boring safety quotes, and they're not safety professionals. These are iconic leaders in industries, magicians and Greek dramatists we've got here from Euripides. I just really liked how they're very cleverly put into the book. They do complement the chapters, I think. I thought they looked quite good in the black as well. This book was very much preaching to the choir for me. You know, it was preaching to the converted. I genuinely have been saying this stuff for quite a while. I think I was starting to annoy my wife when I was laying in bed and reading something and go, "Oh, I've been saying this for years." She was like, "Yeah, right, James, whatever." It was a good read for me, but maybe a little, not wasted. I'm not going to stand here and say I'm arrogant. I mean, like, if you're a safety professional and you get this, you'll read it and you'll enjoy it. You'll walk away just feeling like your suspicions have been confirmed, and that it is wrong. All these myths are wrong, and I know we all say it's wrong, but there's a lot of people that say it's wrong but then still do it. If you read this and you're like me, you'll come away feeling confident. That's it. That's what I'm trying to say. You'll feel supported. You'll feel like, yes, if Dame Judith Hackitt and Andrew Sharman are saying, and I'm saying this and I'm thinking it, then I am right. And I think you will walk away confident. However, you need to get it in the hands of your bosses. You need to get it in the hands of the CEOs, etc. And that's where the value comes from. So, I don't know, one for every member of the board for a Christmas present. I think that's a good idea. Why not? If you're a business owner and you want to start your business, or you're going to start your business and you're concerned about health and safety, I think you forget everything else, and I think you pick this book up and you have a read. If I'm brutally honest, I do think this will get you started on a really, really good track, and I think you'll genuinely understand where I'm coming from in a lot of my videos, where I'm talking about not hiring consultants, and in the podcast, you know, I've mentioned that, and just trying to do a lot of this stuff yourself, and I get shut down a lot for that. I do think this book backs me from a certain point of view. I genuinely really like the book. If I was going to pick one fault of the book, I would say it talks quite a lot about leading and lagging indicators. And we all know the lagging indicators because we do them. It's basically looking in the past. Indicators from the past, you know, hindsight, you know, incidents and accidents, for example. And they talked about, you know, moving on to like kind of positive reporting and positive indicators and leading indicators. And I just felt some examples were lacking from it, to the point where I then went and found a couple more leading versus lagging indicator articles, and yet again the leading indicators were missing. I just think we're all a bit, I don't know, I just think we talk the talk, we don't really walk the walk. I find that some leading indicators still have a negative tangent, a negative kind of perspective from them as well. But, you know, leading indicators quite commonly are unique to each business, and that's probably why people don't give examples. Maybe I'll do a video on it going forward. Okay guys, I hope you have enjoyed that. I hope you found that useful. This is a good book. I'm not endorsed by this book. I am not sponsored in any way, shape or form, so it's my honest opinion. I brought this myself. I enjoyed it. There is a lot of health and safety professionals out there that need to read this book. But 100%, if you're watching this and you're thinking of starting a business, you are a business owner, you're a CEO, you're a senior manager, this is the book for you. It's for you, it's not for safety professionals. So I hope you found this useful. If you've read this book, drop me a comment below. I'd be really interested to know what you thought of it, whether you liked it, whether there's any good points, bad points, etc. Let's engage with each other. Catch you on the flip. Safe.